I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible, but there's something about ovulation week that nobody understands. It's not just about having a calendar mark or taking your temperature or whatever the fertility apps tell you. It's about feeling like livestock, like a prize cow being led to the breeding shed. Everyone thinks my husband is the villain in this story, walking out on poker nights and buying his own blanket like some kind of silent protest. But the truth is, I'm the one who ruined everything. And here's what really happened. I started calling it duty sex out loud, right in the middle of dinner, like I was commenting on the weather. Oh, it's ovulation week, I'd say, checking my phone. Guess it's duty sex time. The first time I said it, he paused with his fork halfway to his mouth, just stopped chewing, looked at me like I'd slapped him. But that's not even the worst part. I thought I was being funny, making a joke about the situation, about how we had to schedule it like a dental appointment. How romantic, right? Here we are, two adults who supposedly love each other, and I'm treating the most intimate thing we do together like taking out the trash, something that needs to get done, but nobody wants to do it. You're probably thinking I'm heartless, but you don't understand what it's like when your body becomes a science experiment, when every month becomes about tins and positions and timing, when sex stops being about connecting and starts being about conception, when you're lying there afterward with your hips elevated on pillows, thinking about sperm motility instead of how good it felt. I convinced myself that calling it duty sex was honest, real, better than pretending we were both into it when we both knew why we were really there. My friends all said I was being brave, facing the truth head on. But what they didn't know was how I was using that word like a weapon, like I was punishing both of us for wanting something so badly that it stopped being fun. The night I said it for the fourth month in a row, something shifted. He didn't pause this time, didn't look hurt, just nodded and asked if I wanted to watch a movie instead. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. He didn't touch me once, not even accidentally. I should have known something was wrong when he started sleeping with his back to me, when he stopped reaching for me in the morning. But I was so focused on my temperature chart and cervical mucus that I missed what was really happening. Everyone was trying to warn me about being too clinical, but I couldn't see that they meant something bigger than just hurting his feelings. While I was worried about optimal fertility windows, the real problem was growing in the spaces between us, in the silence that stretched longer each night, in the way he started planning activities for Tuesday and Thursday evenings, our designated baby-making nights. At first, I thought he was just being absent-minded, a little forgetful about our schedule. That's how much I wasn't paying attention to the actual human being I married. Then came the blanket. I found it in the guest room, folded neatly at the foot of the bed, a thick, gray wool thing that looked like it belonged in a hunting cabin. When I asked him about it, he said he was tired of fighting over the covers, said he kept waking up cold. Made perfect sense, really, except we'd never fought over blankets in 10 years of marriage. We were blanket sharers, one big blanket people, the kind who pool their warmth and kick it off together in summer. But I was so proud of myself for being rational about fertility that I didn't realize I was systematically destroying the very intimacy we needed to make a baby. The irony kills me. I was so focused on the mechanics of conception that I forgot about connection, about love, about why we wanted to have a child together in the first place. The poker nights started the next week, every Wednesday, regular as clockwork. He'd come home smelling like cigar smoke and cheap beer, humming under his breath, happier than I'd seen him in months. When I mentioned that Wednesday was supposed to be our night to try, he said, "Oh, I thought the duty was covered by the schedule. Didn't realize I needed to be present for the paperwork, too." That's when I really messed up. I accused him of not wanting a baby, of sabotaging our efforts, of being selfish and immature. Told him hundreds of millions of women would be grateful to have scheduled sex for the chance at motherhood. Asked him if he knew how lucky we were to have each other, to have this opportunity, to have our health and our marriage and all the things that other couples lose while they're busy fighting infertility. He listened to all of it, didn't argue, didn't defend himself, just picked up his poker bag, an old gym bag he dug out from somewhere, and walked out. Left me standing in our kitchen surrounded by fertility vitamins and ovulation predictors and the ghost of every hurtful thing I'd said without realizing I was saying it. Looking back, I can see how calling it duty sex was wrong, but admitting that meant admitting I was destroying something precious with my own bitterness. You know that feeling when you're so focused on getting what you want that you forget why you wanted it? That's exactly where I was. I wanted a baby so badly that I forgot I was supposed to be making that baby with someone I loved, with someone who deserved better than scheduled intimacy and clinical terminology. The worst part? I thought he was the one being dramatic, buying a separate blanket like we were roommates, scheduling poker nights like some kind of passive-aggressive protest. I posted about it online, anonymous forums, fertility groups, and everyone agreed he was being childish. But the DMs told a different story. Women messaging me privately about how they almost lost their marriages this way, about how they forgot their partners were human beings with feelings, not just sperm donors with good insurance. I've never told anyone this, but one night I found him crying in the garage, just sitting in his car with the door closed, shoulders shaking. I stood outside the window for 10 minutes, frozen, couldn't bring myself to tap on the glass. Because what would I say? Sorry for making you feel like a stud horse? Sorry for turning our love life into a breeding program? Sorry for being so obsessed with having a baby that I forgot we were supposed to be enjoying the process? That image of him crying in the car breaks me. Because everyone thinks they know what happened, that I pushed too hard, that he pulled away, that we're another statistic in the fertility wars. But they don't know that he cries. That this big, strong man who fixes everything and carries all the heavy groceries and builds furniture without instructions sits in his car and cries because his wife made him feel like livestock, because the woman who promised to love him forever reduced him to his biological function and then got mad when he stopped showing up for the privilege. Now, 6 months later, here's where things stand. The blanket stays on his side of the bed. Poker nights are sacred. We sit through dinner making polite conversation like strangers set up on a blind date. And I'm ovulating again. Marked it on my private calendar because I learned not to announce it anymore. Learned that duty sex isn't just insulting, it's relationship poison. That wanting something badly doesn't give you license to destroy everything else. I know this makes me sound selfish and cold, and maybe I was. Maybe I still am. But if you knew how desperately I wanted to be a mother, how every month felt like a tiny death when my period came, how I felt like my body was failing at the one thing it was supposed to be able to do naturally, you'd see why I clung to control like a drowning person grabbing at driftwood. The separate blanket isn't about being cold at night. The poker games aren't about avoiding intimacy. They're about reclaiming some small piece of identity in a process that had started to consume everything. About finding joy in something that isn't measured in ovulation predictor pics and basal body temperatures. I'm telling you this because I need someone to understand that the villain and the victim in this story are the same person. That wanting something so much you lose yourself isn't just possible, it's probable. That you can love someone and still hurt them so badly they need separate blankets and scheduled escapes. I made a decision that destroyed our intimacy. And while everyone's calling me bitter and controlling and clinical, they don't know the real reason I did it. I was terrified. Terrified that if I didn't control every variable, didn't optimize every factor, didn't approach it like a science experiment, then we'd fail. And failure meant facing the possibility that we might never be parents, that my body might never carry the child we dreamed about, that we might be those people who try everything and still end up childless. So yeah, I called it duty sex. Said it out loud, like words don't have weight, like language doesn't shape reality, like you can reduce the most vulnerable act of love to a military obligation and expect everything to stay the same. The blanket stays, the poker nights continue, and I mark my private calendar with the smallest pen I can find, writing my code that's only legible to me. Because some duties you have to carry alone. Some words you can't take back. Some damages you can only watch unfold and hope that love, real love, the kind that survives separate blankets and scheduled escapes, might somehow find its way home again. Maybe one day I'll tell him I know about the crying, about how I stood outside that car window and finally understood what it means to love someone so much you almost lose them in the process. About how sometimes the greatest act of love is respecting the distance someone needs before they can find their way back to you. But for now, I let him have his poker nights and his separate blanket. And I learned that duty comes in many forms. Sometimes it's about showing up, and sometimes it's about knowing when to stay away.